skincare brand generated over $12 million in just 10 months from Meta ads. And in this video, I'll show you exactly how we scale skincare brands to $1 million a month and beyond, even in one of the most saturated markets. We manage several ad accounts for skincare brands, and I'll show you exactly what works for us for both men and women products, and also how we structure creatives to be able to hit 8 figures. I'm gonna cover the main levers to scale a skincare brand, why skincare is different, and how you can win in a saturated market, the creative strategy that we use for this type of brands, and how we scale to figures with our clients. So the main levers are, in my opinion, the offer and the creative. So we focus a lot on the creatives, but we also saw that when we are doing everything well with creatives, we are continuing to double down on what works, continue to try new angles and everything. If we can scale, very often it's an offer product. So the offer is the foundation that helps you to scale. Skincare is a very competitive market. So you need to test not just creatives, so also you need to test your offer very well and making sure that you are competitive in your industry, that you can actually pay a high CPA. Because if your competitors can pay 3 times higher CPA because they have a higher AOV or a higher LTV, then you're gonna lose. We want to make sure that your average order value is at least $78, ideally even more, and you have an LTV that is at least $100, ideally hundreds of dollars. Because a lot of skincare brands are really scaling, they have an AOV of $100 or more, and they also have a very high LTV. So you want to work on that, increasing the conversion rate and increasing average order value in LTV. Once you do that, then the main thing is gonna make big difference is creative. Creatives are not gonna impact only the CTR and the cost per click, but they're going to impact a lot the conversion rate too, and they're going to target the right people. So depending on what type of creatives you do, you're going to hit a different audience. And you just need a process, obviously, to find a lot of new winners, to target a lot of different personas, to make sure that when you have some creative fatigue, you can replace those creatives, and that becomes always more and more important. So you have also to consider that most brands in this space are profitable because they can pay a high CPA, as I was saying before. So you want to have ideally a high AOV. We can see here this Cure Skincare, they basically have 1 month supply for $100, $120, and then you have these for 6 months supply, $220 basically, instead of $700. So basically you see 6 times more for only twice the price. So normally we see these type of offers working very well, where you have an anchor price that some people will still take, but it's just higher for trying the product. A lot of people will take this. So actually the main reason, like the main thing you have to calculate is also the how much additional revenue and margin you get from one offer to the other, and especially with these compared to a completely different offer, because maybe you don't have much more margin in the 3 month supply here compared to 1 month, but the main idea is that a lot of people will buy this. And you can see something similar here, where basically you have 1 jar, 2 or 3, and you want to basically try to push people to buy more and just making sure you have a higher AOV. Something we see working very well is using the 90-day guarantee everywhere. So you want to use that in the ads, advertorial, product page, after purchase, in the emails, like multiple times. You want to make sure that people actually use your product for 60 days, 90 days, and the guarantee should be only after the 60, 90 days. And that's important because a lot of people will actually use it more and will continue to buy in future. More people will have results, you'll have happier customers, and also you'll have also lower refund. So the other thing you want to do is showing that you are better than similar products. You want to highlight how high quality your ingredients are. You want to explain your unique mechanism, and we see that that's really helpful for most skincare brands. Skincare is one of the most sophisticated markets on Meta, and to scale, you need to nail the right positioning. So for men, it's a bit easier because you just have to leverage more the emotion. You have to just explain the problem they have and the solution, what's basically the product. You can talk about a mechanism, but you don't have to innovate too much there. And for women's, it's very sophisticated. So you basically need to introduce a new mechanism. You need to show them they can trust your product and add more proof, and ideally explaining why your mechanism is actually based on science or a new discovery. You can innovate by having a new product, or you can just have a new mechanism that ideally is based on new research, or just a new avatar. You can take a product that works for an avatar and just find a new avatar that is less saturated. I'm going to show you some examples of skincare brands that introduce unique mechanism, that change the avatars, or that they do more simple ads for men skincare. So one example is Miami MD. Actually took part of this breakdown from a funnel of the week. There's a very good community with different funnel breakdowns, and the way they scale is basically by nailing the positioning. They have very good position, they understand very well the market, and they understood that the market sophistication level is basically stage 4 in this case. It's very sophisticated, and a lot of companies use different claims and mechanisms. So in this case they use a very long VSL. That's something that works too. It's less common, but there are a lot of brands that are actually scaling with video sales letters of 10 minutes or even more on Meta. They start the ad by talking about the biggest mistake, crepey skin. They start with that, and then after about 2 minutes they talk about the unique mechanism, and they explain these caused by fibroblast failure. And so they don't make a big promise because the market is very saturated. They just talk about this unique mechanism. They also understand that the audience is problem aware. So obviously there are people that know about the solution, but it's more problem aware. Even though a lot of people think the solution is collagen. So they want to basically address that and explain that collagen alone is not the answer. And then the other thing is that as the products are very similar, it's very generic, what people see in terms of solutions, they all look the same. What they do is they send you to a quiz. And then the quiz has to basically understand you and customize the products for you. Normally it's the same product page, but the headline, just a few things change based on what you answer. So the product feels more custom for you. Another good example also from funnel of the week, they did a very good breakdown of this one, is Norse Organics. So basically in this case they use a lot of social proof to make people trust them. And the other thing they do is that they basically took a product that works and they try to target a new segment, parents of teens struggling with acne. And so that's what they use to scale, and it worked very well for them. One thing you have to consider is basically the sophistication level. You have to always understand what is the awareness level and the sophistication level of the audience I'm targeting. And a lot of times people stop at awareness levels, and that's fine if your market is not sophisticated. But when the market is sophisticated, you have to understand that you can't just make a claim or make a bigger claim. You have to introduce a mechanism or create a better mechanism, or you just have to basically change the avatar or change something else to make sure you can win in that market. So I actually did a video about how to scale in a sophisticated market, and I talk about also a skincare brand and a supplement brand. And normally what you want to do is changing the avatar or the mechanism when the product is very sophisticated, or sometimes changing both. To apply this, you can think, what's an audience that no one is targeting, or actually no one is scaling yet? So there might be other brands that are targeting that audience, but nobody's scaling on that audience for now. And the other thing is, how can I describe the way this product works with a different mechanism that actually makes sense and ideally is based on science, other researches, and explain why my product is better than others. And the other thing is which creative formats or funnels we didn't test yet. And That's also very interesting because you can basically get a different type of audience just by having different type of formats, and also in terms of funnels that can help you to convert people. So you can have an advertorial explains more the product and that helps you to convert, or you have a quiz and it looks more customized for that audience. That helps. Normally also as you scale, we see that you need to go to a bigger audience, you need to go more unaware, but also that depends, because in skincare the market is actually very big, so sometimes you can really scale a lot just with a product aware audience. Another interesting example is Main Strong, and this is very similar to a lot of brands in men's skincare, where basically you want to target an unaware audience or a problem aware audience. Normally the level of sophistication is just level 1, level 2, so you basically can do a claim and explain how you solve the problem. You don't have to introduce any different mechanism. You can introduce a mechanism, but it doesn't have to be completely different to something else in the market. For example, some ads they have, they basically say, this isn't what happens when you get older. This is because of years of sun damage, and you can reverse that. So basically they introduce the problem and the solution. And normally it's much simpler how you want to market to this audience. You will use more the emotion of how they'll feel after they solve the problem, and you talk about how confident, how attractive they will feel, and then introduce the product. This is very similar to what True Classic does for t-shirts, what Dr. Squatch does, and you can see here they have this where they introduce the problem, talking about the problem is the sun damage and that's why you look older, and how you can solve this with this product. Here they just basically say you have this problem, so it's more problem aware, and this is the solution. And you can see also there are ads where basically they are more emotional. They just play more on how attractive and how confident they will feel after using the product. In terms of creative strategy, we see something very important is to differentiate from competitors, as we said, and talking about the unique mechanism, especially for women products. And you want to use dermatologists, ideally in the ads, in the website. As we said, increasing the AOV and LTV, so you're able to afford a higher CAC and compete with bigger brands. And also ideally add different type of creatives and formats that basically competitors struggle more to recreate, and also target different audiences. We see normally like testing 5-10 unique concepts a week from new footage, actually like new ideas you're testing with hypotheses and everything. That works pretty well depending on also your scale, but with clients that spend 1 million a month, for example, even with 5-10 concepts a week, we normally see it working well. Sometimes we add, or they already have internally a part where they basically double down on what works. And so you have one part is more innovating, testing new stuff, new hypotheses and everything, and the other part is just doubling down on what works, especially when you have creatives that are from existing footage and are easier to create. And then normally like lever is doing more creatives, better creatives, diverse creatives. So it's not enough to do more creatives. You want to make sure you find winners so you can scale, and also they need to be different, because otherwise for Meta is going to give the same entity ID and they are considered the same, they're going to target the same audience. And then as you scale, you want to add several buyer personas, several angles, several formats, and that will allow you to get to a bigger audience and scale more. Also, we see that the classic UGCs, traditional UGCs, face to camera are not working very well right now. So it's very important you study what works on organic in your niche. Like there are a lot of videos on TikTok Shop that go viral that are very, very interesting to take as examples. In general, what is viral on TikTok, on Instagram in your industry is very important to look at. And so you don't want to stop at what you communicate, the angles. You also want to look at the formats and the best way to communicate that angle, and making sure you have a unique mechanism to differentiate from the audience. Something we do and help us with a lot of brands is just basically do a creative strategy map where for each buyer persona you have different awareness level, and for each awareness level you have a different angle, and then for each angle you can decide to test it with different formats. So like this, just a quick example, actually then the format would be different formats for each angle, and so it becomes like the bigger map, where basically then you can map these and say, okay, this angle worked, and maybe it worked with this format, and I'm gonna test it with different formats. I'm gonna double down on the same angle and format, and also gonna test with different format. Then this angle didn't work, so maybe I don't want to test this angle anymore, or maybe I think that this didn't work with this format, but I can try it again with the other format that worked for the other angle. So that's what you want to do. You want to map everything, you want to understand what works, so you can double down on what works and stop doing what it's not working. Then as you scale, you're gonna have something like this. So basically you have one product that becomes like 4 products, because you're targeting different, or even 10, 20. So a lot of brands think that they need to just add more products, when actually if the product is broad enough, you can target a very big audience. You just have to divide the product in different buyer personas or avatars, and then for each one you look at the awareness levels, the angles, the formats, and you can see what you can target, and you can normally scale it much more. We had periods for skincare brands where we couldn't find enough winners, and we had a lower win rate, and I think that happens to a lot of brands. I also talk with brands, they have this issue. What we saw when this happened is that in that case, more creatives are not solving the issue. If you have a low win rate, if you don't find new winning ads for a couple of months in a row, then probably you have another problem. That is more the quality of the creatives, or also the diversity, because maybe the creatives, especially now after July with Andromeda, if the creatives are similar, then Meta will give them the same entity ID and will give them to the same audience, and they won't be able to scale as much. So you have to make sure that you focus on just improving that win rate, if that's your main bottleneck, and understand what stops your potential customers and what makes them think and decide to buy from you. So sometimes we saw that it was better to just do fewer concepts and put in a lot of effort in testing the right angles, buyer persona, formats, and with just five concepts a week, sometimes more, sometimes 10, but even 5 concepts a week, and in some cases even 10 a month, we've been able to get some accounts to $1 million a month or more. Obviously, once you improve the win rate, so the win rate is good, then you want to also scale the volume. And normally we see this as a cycle, where basically you fix your win rate and learn like what actually converts, and then you add more volume. So the way you grow is by finding more winning ads, and the way to find more winning ads is higher win rate and higher volume. So normally you have a constraint that is one of the two, and you just want to fix that. Once you fix the win rate, you increase the volume. Once you see that you add the volume more and more, but actually you don't see more winning ads, you can have the same number of winning ads, or actually the pace you're scaling is the same, you're basically saying, okay, the ads I'm adding are not creating incremental results, and so I have to actually work again on the quality and the process. Here are some examples of what we see working right now for our clients, and some formats that are working pretty well, instead of just the traditional UGCs.
Excuse me? What do you do for a living? Is there any skincare secret we don't know about?
So like in this case, like search interview, just having like different formats that are more similar to what works on organic, they normally stop people more, and they are able, if matched to the right strategy, the right positioning, the right unique mechanism and everything, they are able to help you scale more. Obviously, the first thing is the overall strategy we looked at, be able to have a very good offer with good LTV and everything. And once you do that, then and you look at the angles, you understand very well how you're communicating, then having also different formats and ads look more native, that helps a lot to scale more and to beat your competitors. So also like podcast ads, we have an expert, or sometimes you have two people disagreeing on something. One hates the product and doesn't believe on to what the product promises, and the other one basically overcomes the objections.
This is the real reason sensitive skincare products are actually irritating.
Then also just using like dermatologists or authority figures.
Collagen's the most abundant protein in the body. It makes up over 30%, right? And after it...
Or
think your skin just looks tired from lack of sleep? There's more to it. Most skincare products are packed with fillers and unnecessary ingredients.
Or yeah, street review. In this case, we put a mask on the person because that's this product, and so it looks more looks better when people stop. Like for a street interview.
No artificial fragrance, works for all skin types, and costs less than a Subway.
Like stuff like this.
Skincare routine might be the reason you're aging fast.
Or yeah.
We're trying to heal the skin
Yeah, these are some just a couple of examples, but you get the idea of just trying to have like to do something more like authority figure, in different format, and like podcast interview. But even like if you do an UGC, like you don't have to do crazy format. If you do UGC, don't do the classic face to camera video. Maybe do just in one UGC in one take, much more similar to what you see in organic, what you see scaling on TikTok Shop. So and the viral videos you see on organic. So that will already help you a lot. So now, how are we what are we focusing on to help brands scale to 1 million a month in skincare, and also some of these brands like the one I showed to scale to $5 million a month and beyond. So once we find creatives that work well, we want to double down on that, and we want to make sure that we just add more volume on those ads that work well. The other thing is expanding the buyer personas, the angles, the formats, and we add more buyer personas, angles, and formats, because as we saw before, at a certain point you have something like this, where you basically it's like having like 4 or 5 products, but one product targets a very big goal. The other thing is that is very powerful too, is that as you expand and add more buyer personas and angles, you're gonna have different buyer personas, and so it's important that your creatives and your landing page are actually congruent and actually talk to the same persona, and you have different funnels for each buyer persona, and ideally also different product pages. And we have clients who basically grew from 10 million a year to 30-40 million a year just by doing that. The other thing is you always have to focus on increasing your LTV, and by focusing on also the subscription and the retention, but also on the conversion rate and the average order value. And especially if you are smaller as a brand, it's very important to have a very high average order value. That's what I always recommend. Then sometimes it's also new products, even though for some of these products in skincare you can really scale a lot with just with one product. And then ideally, as you scale, you get to 1 million a month or more, you can start to just add some barriers to it. So I hope this was valuable. If you have any questions, feel free to ask here, or just follow me on Twitter and just ask me a question there. You can send me a message. And if you already spend more than 50K a month and you want to scale, then just click the link below and you can book a call. We can do an audit of your ad account and we can see if we can help you to scale.